Thank you for checking out Lakehead International's videos. You're about to watch one of our Lakehead International live webinars, a fun and informative way to learn more about Lakehead while also meeting faculty, staff, and current students. If you have any questions throughout today's video, please comment below. Otherwise, let's get started. Hello and welcome to a Lakehead International Live. My name is Jordan Ball. I'll be your host today. Before we get started, I want to introduce you so you get to know who I am. And then we are going to dive right into our session today, which is focused around our admissions and applications. So once again, my name is Jordan Ball. I am the International New and Social Media Officer. I help run our live events, our digital experiences, our social media channels, as well as our website. And so today I, of course, have the pleasure of hosting today's webinar. With that being said, we're going to start diving into it because I know we have quite a bit to cover. We have a lot to talk about with regards to applications and admissions here at Lakehead. So first and foremost, our agenda, we're going to go over our steps to enrolling. So we'll actually chat about at a very high level, what does it take to apply and enroll to be a student here at Lakehead University? And then we're actually going to focus in on each of our applications. So our undergraduate application guidelines and then our graduate application guidelines. So steps to enrolling, we're going to dive right into it, folks. There's 4 simple steps. Number 1, you need to meet your admission requirements. It doesn't mean that you can't apply if you have not satisfied those admission requirements. For example, if you're entering a bachelor's degree, you need your high school diploma. If you're in the middle of that diploma, if you're in your last year of that diploma, you don't need to satisfy that, i.e. graduate before you apply. You can actually start that application and then send us your in-progress marks and then continue to update us as your semester and your program progresses. Number 2 is meeting our English language proficiency requirements. I'm going to chat a bit more about that in detail because there's several ways to meet those English language proficiency requirements. We want to make sure, though, as international students, you're going to be able to keep up with the demands of an English language program here in Canada. Step 3 is going to be applying online. And then step 4 is submitting your documents. With that being said, of course, if you have any questions throughout the entire process, your recruitment advisors based around the world are there to help and support you through that process, as well as our admission teams. They're more than happy to guide you through that. And again, you can come back to this recording and hopefully learn more about it. So number 1, meeting admission requirements. For those viewers today that are interested in an undergraduate program, so a bachelor's degree or an honors bachelor's degree, whatever it might be, we're looking for successful graduation from an academic secondary school program or the equivalent to that. We're also looking for the Canadian equivalent of a minimum of 70% overall final average. With that being said, there are some programs that are limited entry that will require a higher minimum average. These are just the general admission requirements. And then, of course, depending on your program of study, there are going to be program-specific prerequisites. What that means is if you're applying to an engineering program, they're going to require you to have some of those maths that are going to be able to allow you to be successful from year 1 and have that background knowledge and not need to take some of those foundational courses. All of our program-specific prerequisites can be accessed on our website. So if you head over to lakeheadu.ca and then you navigate to your program page, you'll actually be able to see exactly what program-specific requirements are going to be asked of you. For those students that are looking at a graduate program, so a master's degree, we're looking for successful graduation with an accredited university degree equivalent to Lakehead University's 4-year degree. So that can be still from an international school and international institution if you completed your bachelor's degree in your home country or a different country than Canada. There's a strong possibility and likelihood that there is going to be that equivalent to Lakehead's 4-year degree. But with that being said, you are more than welcome to apply and confirm that for yourself. We're also looking for the Canadian equivalent of a minimum of 75% or a 3.0 on a 4-point scale. And then once again, depending on your program of study, there are going to be program-specific prerequisites. I can't go into detail about every single prerequisite, but as I noted before, you can find those on our website under your program page. Step 2, meeting English language proficiency requirements. So all international students must provide that proof of English language proficiency as a part of their admission process. That can be proved by, for our undergraduate students, a number of ways. First and foremost, recent studies in an English school system. So there's different levels. I'm actually going to break it down in the next slide, so I'll come back to that. If you've successfully completed one of our approved language tests and you've met the minimum required scores, again, I'll break that down in the next slide. If you've completed Lakehead University's academic English program, you'll satisfy our English language proficiency requirements. I have more details about that as well. We also have a few options related to one of our pathway partners. So we are partnered with several ESL language schools across Canada and across the world. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can certainly let us know. And then successful completion of senior level English courses. So for those students that currently study in English medium institutions, if you've completed those senior level English courses, you may be eligible to have that waived. For our graduate students, the past 3 years of full-time recent study must be in an English language school system at the post-secondary level. There are other opportunities where you may be asked to provide English language test scores, but that can be determined by our that will need to be determined by our graduate admissions teams. I will note for all of our viewers today, if you are going to satisfy our English language requirements through your past studies, and so not through a pathway school, not through our academic English program, and not through one of our English tests, you will need to provide a letter from the institution indicating that English is the language of instruction. So like I was saying, with regards to your past studies, for those students that are joining us from a university level studies, we will require 1 year of full-time undergraduate or graduate level studies at university where English is the language of instruction, as well as the country itself, English is the official language. At the college level, we're looking for a similar thing, except it's 2 years of full-time diploma level studies at a college, again, where English is the main language of instruction and the country is English. At the high school level, we're looking for 3 years of full-time study where English is the main language of instruction. However, the caveat here is English does not need to be the official language of the country. And once again, a friendly reminder, you will need to provide that letter from your institution indicating that it is English instruction. For those students that are interested in ESL tests, you can see on our screen we have some of the 5 most popular: IELTS, TOEFL, Duolingo English Test, Cambridge, and PTE Academic. We have our minimum scores listed on there. I won't need to read them off since you have them in front of you on your screen. With that being said, some of these minimum scores are not the same for our limited enrollment program. For example, our nursing students will require a slightly higher minimum score because in your very first year, you're actually going to be going into your community placements and working with real patients in the healthcare system. And so we need to ensure that your English language proficiency is slightly higher. And so that you're going to be successful in your program. Again, if you have any questions about this sort of stuff, feel free to let us know in the Q&A. As I mentioned, we offer our academic English program here at Lakehead University. It is an accredited program by Languages Canada, so you can ensure that the instructors, the course material, the methodology is all rigorous and really up to par. We obviously focus our students on strengthening all sorts of English skills. So they're reading, they're writing, they're listening, they're speaking. We do that through a variety of methods, of course, whether it's one-on-one sessions with your peers or your instructor, whether it's group settings, whether it's excursions out in the community. We also do our best through those same excursions give you a best experience of Canadian culture. So the photo on your screen is actually some of our students that were in one of our academic English classes, and they went out to Fort William Historical Park here in Thunder Bay, which is a historical museum center. And our students were actually able to take part in several excursions while learning about the histories of Thunder Bay and Fort William Indigenous tribe, but at the same time, improving some of their English skills. So their active listening skills, their speaking skills, their reading skills, all through these excursions. So it's not necessarily only in the classroom, which was really exciting and makes your your experience in learning English really well-rounded. So step 3, when you're ready, you can apply online. Whether you're undergraduate or graduate, you're going to head over to lakeheadu.ca/international/applying/apply now. I'm also going to show you on our website, Lakehead International. This is lakeheadu.ca/international. If you don't want to write down that link, if you don't want to remember that link, no worries. All you have to do is actually find this purple button here that says apply now. If it's a purple button and it says apply now within Lakehead International's environment, it's going to bring you to this page here where we've actually built a really quick and handy tool to get you to the proper application forms. So we'll dive into that. We'll come back to that in just a second. But again, if you would like to take a screenshot even of this page or write this URL down, I'm more than happy to put that in the chat for folks as well. So why don't I go ahead and do that? Alrighty, there it is for everyone. So once again, if you want to save that, bookmark it on your computer, it's a great way to easily access our applications. And then last but not least, submitting your documents. So once you've actually applied online, the next step and the most important step, in my opinion, is sending your documents. You can go through all of the work to make sure you're going to satisfy our English language requirements, our admission requirements. You can even go down the path of applying and submitting and paying. But if you don't send us documents, we can't assess your application. So for our undergraduate students, we're going to require official transcripts. Again, like I noted, you do not have to apply after completing your degree, your diploma, your whatever you're pursuing right now. You can send us in progress transcripts. We can accept them as in progress or unofficial transcripts. By the end of your term, when you do graduate, we will receive that final official, and we'll need you to actually send it to us, whether it's actually connecting with your institution and having them mail it directly, or if they give you a sealed envelope, you can open that sealed envelope and then you need to mail it to us. English test scores, again, if that's the methodology that you're choosing, how to satisfy our English language requirements, and then any program-specific documents. We won't dive into that because it's so specific to each program and so detailed. As I've noted though before, all of this information is available on our website under the program pages. For our graduate students, we'll require official transcripts. At the end of your degree, we'll also require a proof of your degree. We'll require those English test scores and then requiring any supporting documents. So typically we'll ask for a statement of intent. We may ask for a CV or a resume. We might ask for you to have some references. And so you'll need to include up to 3 references potentially that we may want to reach out to and ask, do you recommend this student to our program? With that being said, if you have any questions through this process, we do have our recruitment advisors based around the world. If you're not too sure who your recruitment advisor is, you can always let us know in the Q&A. Let us know what country you're joining from, and then we can always let you know who to contact and give you their details. Without further ado, though, we're going to get started and we'll kick it off with that undergraduate application guidelines. Before you begin your application, I do want to note, we encourage you to have a few things ready. Number 1, have your 2 program choice options ready. You're more than welcome to have more than 2. There may be additional fees if you add more than 2 programs onto that application though. We encourage you to also allow for up to 20 minutes to complete the full online application. We're very excited that you now create an account with our application, and so you can start it and you can come back to it, so it will save in the middle of your application. I encourage you though, if you are prepared to make that application, carve out some time, sit down and finish it all in one go. It's so much easier, and it really lifts the weight off your shoulders once you submit that application and it's in our system. And it can get the ball rolling on our end. It takes a few days to process it and get it in our system, get it in front of our admissions teams, as well as to process your information and get you an account with Lakehead University. And last but not least, then if you are prepared to submit that application, we want to make sure you also have your payment method ready. So page number 1, we'll get to this page in just a second. I'll actually show you the page on our website, but you're going to be asked to, you're going to come here and it's going to ask you to log in or create an account. For those users who have never applied to Lakehead University before directly, you will be creating an account, which is on the lower half of this screenshot here. You'll see if this is your first time filling out an Ontario University application, visit Create My UAC Account.
Once you click on that, it's going to bring you to page 2, which is creating your account. So you're going to provide your first name or your given name, any of your middle names, and your last name or your family name. It's very important that those details match your birth certificate, your passport, any official documentation, and especially your academic transcripts. We'll get to parts where if your names have changed over the years, there's an opportunity to provide us with those details. Your date of birth, of course, that's important to include in here. And then your email address. We're going to send you a verification email to this address. So we want to make sure that it's something that you're regularly monitoring and you have access to. We don't intend on spamming you. And this is a critical piece, that you do provide an email that you are checking regularly, because this is where we'll communicate. If there's anything missing from your application, if we need more details, if we need to touch base with you, this is the email that we'll be using to connect with you. And so it's of the utmost importance that you have access to it and you check it regularly. Once you've completed those steps, page 2 is continue it. Essentially, you keep scrolling and you're actually going to come up with a username. My username is a combination of my first and last name with a couple numbers. I encourage you to do something similar, or at least something that you are absolutely going to remember. And again, choosing your password, there's details of what's going to be required in the password, whether you need uppercase, lowercase, symbols, numbers, all that sort of stuff. It's noted on the page there for you. Again, it's a password that you should remember. You should have it saved somewhere. So whether you're a little more old-fashioned, you're going to write that password down in your notebook, your diary, whatever it might be. Or if you're going to save it on your phone, in your notes, or as a saved password, or on the laptop itself, your computer itself, we just want to make sure that you won't forget it. When you're all said and done, you're going to click Create My UAC Account. Page 3, it's going to give you an overview. Make sure you read this over just once really quickly. It can't hurt. It's essentially that verification that did you provide all the proper details. Again, go over the names you provided, your date of birth, your username, your address, your email address, pardon me, and make sure that all of that is correct. I do want to note, if you provide an incorrect email address, that will essentially not allow us to verify, and you won't get to the next step of the application. So I'm going to change gears here, and I'm going to actually go back to that website I was showing you earlier, where you can see applying now here at Lakehead University. So for those viewers, I'll just do it one more time. When you land on lakeheadu.ca/international, you're going to click that apply now, that purple button. And then for our undergraduate users, you're going to click apply now right here. You can see here, I already have an account, so I won't go through creating an account with you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to log in, and we're going to dive into the application here today. So it's going to bring you to a welcome page. It's going to give you some general information. It's going to give you some helpful tips. You'll see some of my helpful tips are repeated here. And then, of course, it's going to give you some more details, terms and conditions. I encourage everyone to read the welcome page. It does have important information, and it also will help you feel confident in submitting an application to the full extent. When you're ready, at the very bottom of each page, there's typically going to be a proceed to, and then it will be the next page, and it takes you through the entire process. Those same pages are found on the left-hand menu here. So either way, we're going to introduction. You're going to see an overview about Lakehead University, an overview for our Thunder Bay and Aurelia campus, some general admissions information. And then after you've read this page, if you choose to read this in full depth, or if you already know about Lakehead, you love Lakehead, you're ready to apply, you can get right to the programs. So we're going to click Browse Programs. It's going to take its time to load here for me today. But you're going to see all of our Indigenous access programs, and then our degree programs, as well as our certificate programs and our specialty student programs. For a vast majority of you, your focus is going to be on degree programs. I'm going to randomly select a program. Let's do criminology on the Aurelia campus. So you can actually see there's more details about the program. You can view the admission requirements by clicking this link. You can visit Lakehead University's website by clicking here, or any additional program details. So we have a general overview within each of our program pages, but I do encourage you, if you maybe haven't yet decided on a program that you've created this application, You can certainly click on these links and explore a bit deeper, explore a bit more. And as I've noted before, if you have questions about this, if you aren't too sure, maybe you haven't fully grasped what you're prepared to study, what you want to study, have a moment, sit down with one of our recruitment advisors and discuss your future goals and your intentions, and they're happy to guide you through that process. When you are ready to add a program to your application, it's very simple. So again, since we're in criminology, I'll stick with that, and we're going to choose a date of enrollment. So for today's sake, I'm going to choose fall 2023. The application just opened last week on Friday, and so we're really excited to start receiving those new applications. And then for year level, first year means that you are a student that's entering directly from your high school degree or diploma. You are entering university for the very first time. If you are entering Lakehead from another university or another institution, you're going to select advanced standing. That essentially means that, and it's a trigger for our admissions team to recognize that you may have post-secondary credits and courses already completed that we can assess for transfer credits. So for today's sake, I'm going to keep it at that first year because the vast majority of you will be first year. You can see now we're under program choices. This is choice number 1. And then I'm going to go and add another program to my application. So for that, it looks like we like the Aurelia campus. So I'm going to go and actually do interdisciplinary studies. And I'm going to add this program as well. So in here, we're going to do a fall 2023. In this case, you'll be asked to select a major of interest. I'm thinking I'm going to like international conflict and human rights. And again, first year. So I'll save that program. In terms of your interest level, we ask you to rank your choice number. So I'll keep it as is, why don't I show you? If for example, maybe I'm like, interdisciplinary studies, that sounds pretty fun. I think that's the program I actually would prefer to get into at Lakehead. You're actually going to rank your choice number here. So you'll select 1 here. You'll change this to 2. What that means is that when you click save down here under order your choices, it's going to reorder them so that we know on our side in the admissions department, your first choice is interdisciplinary studies or whatever program you've selected and put into that first choice. If you want to change the program, if you want to delete it, it's all done through the actions column here. When you're prepared to move forward, you can go to proceed to your personal information. Here you'll see I have my first name and my last name in here. If you have a preferred name and it's different from your legal given name, you can certainly include that in here. I will note that not all communication that we send will use that preferred name. And then for former last name or family name, for those students that have changed their last name, have been married and changed their last name or changed it for whatever reason, we ask you to include that former last name because oftentimes some of those original documents or documents for the last number of years, especially academic transcripts, are going to have that former last name. And so when we receive that hard copy in the mail and we're trying to figure out who is this for, we'll have that record of your former last name. Some of those other fields are just optional. You don't have to provide all the details. Date of birth, it's going to pull in the information you've already included from when you created the account. So technically, if you needed to change something, if maybe you do realize you've made a little mistake, you can come in here and fix it. If you identify as this First Nation status or non-status, Inuit or Métis people, this is where you declare that. For those students that are international students, this is in relation to Canada's Indigenous population. And then we also ask whether or not you, either of your parents or guardians have attended university or college before. You can declare that, or you can have no declaration. And then your status in Canada. So for a vast majority of you who are international students that are joining, and you're not a Canadian citizen, so your citizenship is elsewhere in the world, you're going to be under a study permit. If any of these other options apply to you though, please select those so that we can have that. Your country of citizenship can be listed here. And then if not born in Canada, date of entry into Canada. I know it seems like, why do they need that? You can absolutely put, if you're joining us in the fall of 2023, you can put 2022-08, meaning that you're going to be joining us in August of 2023. That will just give us a rough idea of when you're joining us. It's not firm. We're not going to hold you to it. And then your first language. English, French, or other. When you're ready, you can click Save and Continue, and it's going to bring you to the next page, or in this case, you'll note that I did not provide these details. So status in Canada, country of citizenship, first language, none of it was completed, so it's not going to let me go past that point. So I'm actually going to click Study Permit. For today's session, I'll put my citizenship as Afghanistan, 2023-08, and I will say my first language is English. So save and continue. It's going to ask me to review that, and then I go to my contact information. Once again, you're going to get contact information. It's going to pull through that email address you already provided. I've already verified. So immediately I received that email saying, can you click on this link to verify you are the person that's applying? I did that, and now I have a verified status. Then you're going to go into address. So your mailing address and your home address, both are required. If you complete your home address and it's the same as your mailing, there's an option to select that. So once you populate your country, it's actually going to populate which detail is required. So in terms of Afghanistan, your province and state is not going to populate. It only does that for Canada and the United States. But then your address line, you have up to 3 address lines. We have postal codes. That's for Canada. Obviously, we do not include space. And for the United States, there's a zip extension with the hyphen. If you also have a postal code in your home country, provide that here. And then we're going to need to know your city. If there's other details, such as a PO box number, or any other details that you typically provide for your mailing address or your home address, provide that in address line 1, 2, and 3. If you have the same mailing address, you can check this box and it's going to bring it over. If you have a different mailing address, so if you live in one place but you get your mail in a different, you'll have to complete both of those, because we are very excited to be able to send some packages out to our students. From there, I won't save any of these details. You would be moving on to your applicant type. So your applicant type, you are going to most likely be an international student applying for a full-time undergraduate program. If you are working with one of Lakehead's accredited and approved academic agents, this is the details they'll be filling out. And in most cases, you'll actually be working with them side by side on completing this application. And they know how to complete this part. If you're not working with an academic agent, you can simply select no, and it's not going to require any more information from that. If you are working with that agent, you will need to release your application information to the named agent so that they can help you through the process. And for those students that have previously applied or even previously registered with Lakehead, you're going to select something a bit different up here. And then you're also going to let us know when you applied or when you previously registered. So that's very important, because it helps us tie your new application to your old student information. Academic background. This is where you're going to provide all of the institutions you've registered in between secondary and post-secondary courses. So to add an institution, you simply come up here. You're going to select the institution type. So if it was your high school, when did you start the high school? So again, a year. Let's say I started in 2015 and I started in September. And maybe I graduated, took a little time on it, 2020, and I graduated in June. Then I have to select the location. So if you are going to go in here, let's say that I, again, completed school in Afghanistan, my institution name is actually going to pull high schools from Afghanistan. This list is by no means an exhaustive list of all the institutions. It's ever changing, of course. And so with that being said, if you cannot find a program or your institution that you attended in this list, all you have to do is scroll down and say not in this list. That's going to populate all of the unlisted institution information. So you'll provide us their name, their country, their address line, and their city. All that information should be accessible on their website potentially, or if you have a report card from them, it should be listed somewhere on that report card. If you're lucky and you do have a school listed, so let's say I went to this school here, I don't need to provide any more details. The system already knows and is going to pull that information in for us. Then you'll complete a few more details: the highest level achieved, the field of study if you did post-secondary or CGIP, your diploma degree type, your degree length, and then These options right here, if you are in post-secondary or CGIP institutions, you can let us know whether or not you've conferred your degree or completed it, or if you're expected to complete it or confer it. If you're not expecting to complete or defer it, you can always note that here, and then any applicable dates will be added here. So you'll do that at least one time, if not multiple times, for all of the academic institutions you've attended over the past several years. Transcript requests are only applicable to those applying that have attended other post-secondary institutions here in Ontario. And finally, you're going to go to your review and submit. So you're seeing here, the great thing about this application is it tells you when there's errors. So obviously we have quite a few errors because I didn't complete or save a number of those fields as I showed you them, as I walked you through them. With that being said though, ignoring that, pretending like there's no errors here today, you're going to see this warning here, which essentially asks you, I mean, in this case, because I didn't add any institutions in my academic history, it's asking, did I not attend a post-secondary institution or college? And then I do have to confirm that I did not. It's not going to give me the next step to actually verify and agree and go to the next step where it's an applicant's declaration, confirming that all of the information you provided on the application is true and accurate. And then you're going to verify and agree one more time and proceed to your payment. Once you've submitted that payment, everything is, I like to say, smooth sailing after that. Like I noted, it's going to take Lakehead a few days to process that. So the system itself will actually send it to our servers. The processes happen overnight. But then when you start receiving your communication, your thank you, your acknowledgement email, thank you for that application, it may take a number of days, so please be patient. The most important part is that when you actually proceed to the payment and you've successfully completed that payment, you're going to receive an UAC reference number, which means that you've submitted that application. And then just be patient, give us a few business days to process it and get back to you. And then we'll start working together to complete that application, submit those documents, all that sort of stuff. So that covers it for our undergraduate application. Before we actually move on to our graduate application guidelines, I'm going to hop over. I see a lot of Q&A that's been happening, and I'm very thankful for my team behind the scenes that's answering that, keeping the session moving forward. But I'm just reading some of these here. It says, on the application, I choose no status instead of study permits. Is this going to pose a problem? So with that being said, that application, if you are providing us your information and you are required to provide us with that status, it could pose a problem because it won't actually confirm what your status is to Lakehead. So we need to know that you are an international applicant. If you are in the process of maybe applying for a diplomatic status, a Canadian permanent residency, a refugee status, I encourage you to still provide us that study permit status, so select that. And then moving forward, of course, in 3-4 months, if you receive an update from those applications and you are and your status changes, all you have to do is reply or let our admissions team know, and we'll update your file for you. There's some other questions with regards to dormitories, all that. I'll let our team behind the scenes answer that so that we can dive on over to our graduate application guidelines. So for those students that are applying for those master's programs or doctoral programs, before you begin your application, we have 4 steps for you. Have your program options selected. And if you're doing a thesis-based approach to your program, have your supervisor name ready. In some cases, if you don't have that already pre-selected, if you haven't connected with a supervisor quite yet, you can complete an application, but we do strongly encourage, and we know that your application is stronger if you already have that supervisor selected. We ask that you allow for 20 minutes to complete the full online application, and once again, have that payment method ready. So I will show you how to navigate to this page in just a moment, but creating your application form is pretty straightforward. You're going to be a guest at first. You're going to complete your first name, your middle name, your last name, any previous last name. So different from our undergrad application, if you have a former last name, you've changed it, you've been married, whatever it might be, this is where you include that now. So your previous last name, your date of birth, your SIN, SIN is only applicable, to students that already are here in Canada. So if you're Canadian, you're born and you actually get a SIN immediately. If you're an international student that's already lived in Canada, and you've looked for a job, you need a SIN to get a job here in Canada. You may have one of those. For a vast majority of you, you won't have it. You don't need to provide it, don't worry. And then you will be required to provide us with an email address in order for us to send you your login credentials. Again, it's very important that the email address you include here is one that you have regular access to and you check on a regular basis. We will not spam you, but we will provide important updates related to your application, to the admissions process, to get involved with Lakehead, all that sort of stuff. If you've previously attended, applied, or been employed by Lakehead, you do need to declare that here. Again, that's going to help match your new application to your old record. So with that being said, we're going to dive back over to our website. I'm going to click on Lakehead University. Now, from even the home page, you're going to see how I navigate to either one of our applications. So at the very top here, you see our handy toolbar. I'm going to go ahead and click on International. You'll bring us to our Lakehead International landing page. Once again, I'm going to click the purple Apply Now, and you can see our graduate application form is open. So here on the left, you can see actually where you would create an account. Once you've created that account, you're going to get those login credentials. And when you come back to the same application, you're actually going to go to the sign in at the top. You'll note here, I'm actually going to sign in using my personal Lakehead contact. It's going to bring me to my application portal, which I don't have any active applications. To do that, though, you're going to go to View Programs. I do like this portal quite a lot because you can view it in a few different ways. You can search for programs. So if you want to see them in thumbnail format, or if you want to see them in a list format, I prefer the list because you actually get to see all the open dates and the deadlines very neatly organized. Please note, of course, there's a lot of programs that are not open at this point because only our winter application is open. So if you're looking to apply for winter 2023 for one of our master's programs, you're more than welcome to apply for those select programs that are open. However, our fall 2023 application, the main application, should be opening at some point this October. So for today's session, I'm going to do biology. And you can see I've typed in biology up here and it's actually filtered 1 through 6 programs. And there's the different criteria. It's pulling names from the title, but also the descriptions that we've provided behind the scenes. So that's why you see a number of programs. I'm going to go for the classic Masters of Science in Biology. I'll click on more. It's going to give me some details about the program. Applications for January or winter 2023 are open for that intake. I'm going to get information, supervisor information. I could also access supervisors for biology here. So I've clicked on that. You can actually see, I'll go to faculty within biology. We have Dr. Malik, Dr. Algar, Dr. Karni. There's a lot of supervisors and faculty in biology. I love a lot of these professors. I've worked with a number of them over the years. And with that being said, it's quite easy to find your supervisors and start to understand maybe what are their passions, what are their studies, what are their specializations. That will help you align better and make sure that when you join us for a thesis project specifically, you're going to have a supervisor that's also interested in the work you're doing. So you have your admission requirements, your additional application information. I noted at the beginning of today's session, each program has unique application information that's required. So in this case, biology will require a CV as well as a cover letter. In the cover letter, they actually outline exactly what they require of you. So if I'm ready to apply, I'm going to click the apply button up here, and it's actually going to bring me through all of my various tasks. So my pre-application questions, let's dive into that first. My student status, I'm going to be international. It's very important that you get the right student status here because it will populate the proper details below. Of course, it knows that I've applied to the MS Biology. My intake is going to be for January 2023. And then I am going to be interested in a thesis-based approach. At this point, it is going to ask for the name of a potential supervisor as well as so the applicant's area of research. In this case, maybe I would do Dr. Shri Kushiri, and I would list her here. And then my research area, if we went back to Shri, we read a bit about her bio, her qualifications, what courses she teaches in. She's in environmental microbiology. So if I was a student maybe looking at sort of that environmental piece, I might put my supervisor or my research area in here. Study load is going to be full-time, and then your campus, Thunder Bay or Aurelia. In a lot of cases, a vast majority of our master's or graduate programs are offered on the Thunder Bay campus. And so that option may not be available for you to actually select a different campus. It's very important that this piece is fully completed before you click save, because once it's marked as completed, you will not be able to change your responses on this piece of the form or this section of the form. So what I would encourage a vast majority of you to do is simply click save and continue editing. So it's going to save it as in progress. You're going to get that half green circle, and you can move on to the next part. Your application form, again, you're going to be asked to provide your current email address, your information. Unfortunately, it doesn't pull it through. So we make sure that whatever you created your account with is going to be duplicated here. If you've completed Ontario elementary or secondary schools, you would have an OEN number. You can include that here. Again, if you have a Canadian social insurance number, you can include that here. Contact information, address type. It's going to ask you whether it's a home, apartment, condo, or business. Again, it's very important that this information is also applicable to be mailed to. So if you do have a PO box, if that is something that your country has a little more strict requirements in terms of mailing addresses, make sure you have that all listed here properly. Phone number, we're going to ask for that, whether it's a business, seller, home, you can include that, save and continue. Obviously, I didn't complete anything on this form, so it's going to give me a big old error message saying we need some info. Unofficial transcripts. So this actually is where you can upload whether you have access to your online transcript. You can take a screenshot of that. Whether you've already received a printed copy, you can scan that and upload it here. It will be accepted as noted in the title. It's an unofficial transcript. If you would like to send us or order an official transcript, you can send it directly to us at the Faculty of Graduate Studies, Lakehead University, 955 Oliver Road, Thunder Bay, Ontario. I won't read the rest. Because unless you're sending it immediately after today's session, you don't need to know that quite yet. You also have your official proof of degree. Again, this is optional because we recognize that there are students that are in their final year of their bachelor's degree program that are applying. So if you're in that final fourth year and you're applying to your master's program here at Lakehead, you're not going to have a proof of degree. And so that's why we have it as optional. If you're applying and you've already graduated, we encourage you to include that here. It will just bring your application one step closer to being final and official. You can upload your CV here. You can upload your cover letter here, and then your academic references. So request a recommendation. You're going to include their first name, their last name, email, and then a message. Once you actually send that request, the system that we use is actually going to notify that person immediately. So we want to make sure that the email address, that's how they're being notified, is absolutely correct. And it's something that is they have access to. If you're doing an academic reference, we do encourage you to use the email that's associated with the institution they work for. So maybe it's a past professor. We want to make sure you're using that professor's institutional email. If I was a professor at Lakehead and I was doing a recommendation, they would have to use my @lakeheadu.ca email. So once you've added your recommendations, in this case, there's a minimum of 3 as well as a maximum of 3. So simply put, we're going to need 3 recommendations. You're going to be moving on to the last step, which is your submission fee. You can click here to pay. It's going to bring you to the step where you can complete that through a variety of methods. If you have any questions about that, you can always reach out to graduate studies at gstudent@lakeheadu.ca. You can see it here right now. We do encourage you at that point to include your application ID number. It will help us find your application in the system really fast and be able to assist you and not have to play tag over email. It's awful, to say the least. If you send an email on a Friday afternoon, we're on our weekend, we come back on Monday, you have a really great question about your application. However, we can help you because we don't know exactly who you are or what your application is, can't match up those details. And so then we send a reply, hey, can we get that application ID? Tuesday comes around, you reply. Wednesday comes around, we reply. So if you are sending any emails to anyone at Lakehead, I always encourage you to include your full name as well as your application ID or your Lakehead University ID. You will be provided with a Lakehead ID upon that application being submitted, and that will help anyone here at Lakehead find your information. So once you've done all this, of course, we have a lot of boxes that I didn't do. I didn't upload any fake CVs or cover letters. So I'm not going to be able to show you where we actually submit it and get to the next part where we mark it as complete. I will remind our viewers today, once again, when you mark something as complete, it locks it into the form and you're unable to change it at that point. So until you're prepared to submit the form itself, I always encourage you to save and continue. When you save and continue, that will actually allow you to go back, sign out, and then come back maybe tomorrow, maybe in a couple of days. Maybe you're waiting, you're still drafting that CV, or you're really working on that cover letter. Take a few days to make sure that it's really amazing and incredible. I will remind our viewers, in that cover letter, if you are interested in graduate assistantship or graduate funding opportunities, we do encourage everyone to actually note that in there so that upon review, our faculty will actually keep that in the back of the mind when they are providing those opportunities, when they're giving students graduate assistantships, when they're providing additional funding. They'll know, because of your own letter, that you are interested in those opportunities and you're willing to work for them. But like I was saying, if you have an application in progress, all you have to do is sign back into the portal, go to your My Applications tab, and you're going to see all of your active applications here. When you click continue, it's going to bring you right back to this page where you can, of course, come back and complete any of the half circle ones. In this case, we knew that my pre-application questions were already completed. An application form, not so much. I left it all blank. With that being said, when it's all done, though, you are ready to submit and get it on its way. So I will wrap it up there for graduate studies, and we will move into our question and answer period. So thank you again, folks, for joining us. It's been my pleasure hosting. I hope you got some good insight in terms of what is required from Lakehead University and from you to apply at Lakehead. With that being said, I do want to open the floor to any questions. They do not have to be related to admissions and applications. If you want to know a bit about Lakehead University, it's my specialty. I can chat about just about anything here on campus. With that being said, though, I do want to remind our viewers before I let you go to follow us on our social media channels. You can find us at Lakehead International on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also take a virtual campus tour at lakeheadu.ca/tours. So that will help you explore Thunder Bay or Aurelia. You'll explore cafeterias, residence rooms, labs, classrooms, the library, you name it, you can see it essentially. And last but not least, if you like today's session, I know that we recorded it and we'll be putting it on our YouTube, but if you want to join us for a future session, learn about different things Lakehead, maybe even meet your future faculty. We're currently hosting our faculty sessions throughout the fall. You can scan the QR code at the bottom left of your screen and attend one of our Lakehead International live events. So hopping over to that Q&A, I see a few rolling in, so I'm going to answer the first one live. It says, is it necessary to attest documents or verify? So documents that are shared with Lakehead University, if they're transcripts, the first round of documents, you're more than welcome to submit them as are. They'll be accepted as in progress and unofficial. With that being said, for documents, when you need to submit those final official, they need to come to Lakehead University in a sealed envelope. So if you go to your institution, whether you actually walk up and you go in person, you say, hey, can you print off my transcript? You need to get that in a sealed envelope. That seal cannot be broken whatsoever. Then you need to put it in a mailing envelope and get it over to us here in Thunder Bay. We'll make sure that that's final official. If there's any problems with that, we will certainly communicate that to you. It's not one of those answers, unfortunately, that I can say broadly across the entire spectrum, because each document is unique, essentially. With that being said, if your documents are in a different language, you may be required to do a WES assessment, but that is only upon request. So I don't want to scare anyone to think that they all have to be assessed by WES. That's not the case. We encourage you to apply, submit the documents that you have or you can access at this point. And then from there, we can provide you more details on what the next steps are. Here's a good question. How do you convert GPA from second class honors upper year / lower to a 3.0 or 4.0? So the calculations vary. Essentially, our graduate studies team does not release that information on what their conversions are, because a Canadian equivalent may look very different to a student that's applying from South Asia versus a student that's applying from Latin America, or of course, somebody that's applying from another Canadian institution. It depends, and that formula is not something that we do share publicly. So it is hard to answer that, essentially, and I do apologize that you won't be able to necessarily convert your own GPA to determine whether you're going to have the satisfy admission requirements. I do want to encourage you, though, if you're interested in applying at Lakehead University and you've performed fairly well in your previous studies, I think that you'll be good to apply and start that process. Another question we have is grade 10 transcript mandatory? Typically not. So if you're applying for a bachelor's degree for that undergraduate program, say if you're in grade 12, we will actually review your grade 11 marks and your in-progress grade 12 marks. In some cases, if you've performed really well and we can see that you're stellar in your academics, we actually may provide you a conditional offer letter. What that means is that based on your previous academic marks, we can make an admissions decision to say they've done well in the past and they should do well the rest of this year. We're going to give them an offer, and that offer will only be valid, of course, if you satisfy a few requirements. All those details would be, of course, provided to you in your letter of acceptance if you do receive that conditional offer. Another question says, in my country, which is Chile, there is a test to enter university. Will I need it to apply? Absolutely not. No, so Lakehead doesn't require any entrance tests. We don't have SATs, similar to American schools typically have an SAT or some sort of entry test. I will note, of course, we do have admission requirements that you need to satisfy, and our English language proficiency. One of the ways to satisfy that is through an English language test. It's just not a university entrance test. It's just to confirm that you're going to be able to keep up with an English language instruction at Lakehead. Awesome. Well, it looks like we've answered most of our questions, all of them that are there, at least for now. So to our audience, once again, thank you so much for joining us. It's always been my pleasure to host these. To our behind the scenes team, Ichen and Paula, thank you very much for your assistance. We answered so many questions today, and I hope that we were able to help our audience guide them through the application and admissions process. Once again, I do want to remind our viewers, if you're not quite ready to submit that application, maybe you're still weighing your options, you want to learn more about Lakehead, you want to sit down and chat with somebody here at Lakehead, we have several recruitment advisors based conveniently around the world. And so you can check that out if you visit us at lakeheadu.ca/international, and you go to our future student page. There's an opportunity to connect with our recruiters, whether it's virtually on a one-on-one private meeting through Zoom, whether maybe there's an opportunity to meet up in person at one of our many events in country, or if it's going to be at one of our future Lakehead International live webinars. There's plenty of opportunities to connect with us and say hello. And so with that being said, I encourage you to continue to stay connected. One final question before we wrap up. It says, do Nigerian students need IELTS? So depending on what your previous studies are, it may be satisfied through the the language of instruction at your institution, and of course the fact that English is a part of the curriculum. So all of that is dependent on your previous academic studies. I can't answer, unfortunately, across the board for all Nigerian students. So with that being said, folks, I'm going to wrap it up here and thank you again for joining us. I hope to see you at a future event very soon. Bye for now.
I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, I want to encourage you to comment below or connect with us on social media. We can be found at Lakehead International on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for watching once again, and hopefully we'll see you at the next live webinar. Bye for now.